What are we doing today, Cass?
We're finally getting around to doing a video about how we set ourselves up with the GoPros for our riding adventures.
Because we have lots of stuff. And at this point, while we're recording this video, we've only been doing this for, well, 7.5 months.
Yeah.
Almost 7.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we've accumulated quite a bit of stuff. We started off small and then we kind of just got really into it. We started off with that right there. That's it.
Hero 4 Silver, I believe.
Yep.
I bought it off some guy at work for cheap, secondhand, with a couple accessories. It really did what it needed to do, and especially for the price we paid. I can't remember how much we paid.
$150 for his kit, yeah.
Yeah, and he gave us a bunch of accessories with it. There's a lot of stuff that's not actually here right now.
Yeah, there's other little kits, yeah.
But yeah, essentially it did really great. We were holding out for the Hero 6, but it wasn't much different than the 5. So we waited out for the 7. Huge reveal, huge savings on the pre-order sale. Unfortunately, we didn't get both during the pre-order because we wanted to see if it was worth the jump. And it
for the GoPro 7, yeah.
For the 7, yeah. And it sure was, so we ended up buying a second one. So that's kind of the history of what we've used.
We've got that GoPro that we started with, and then we picked up the GoPro 4 Black, and that's what we started doing. Because this is around the same time Cass got a quad too, so we put one on her helmet.
Yeah.
So we went from those, and after we made a couple of videos and found out we really wanted to keep doing this, we bought a GoPro 7 on pre-order, like she said, and I'm also filming, as you can imagine, with another GoPro 7. Yeah. Both of our GoPro 7s are blacks, so they can stream and do all sorts of other features. And they were a huge jump in quality. They were a huge jump because they have hyper smooth, which
that was the biggest thing for us.
The GoPro 4s had zero stabilization, so. But the biggest thing when I started doing these videos and Cass came along, I didn't know where to put the camera.
Look at you for a minute, staring at me, listening to you.
So we started wondering how we were going to mount it to our helmets. So the first thing I did was I worked with what I had. So I started with a mount on top with the sticky pads, and I just put another sticky pad and tied it with a rope just in case like this came off and I'd lose it or whatever. I would still have an extra safety. What I found with this was going through the trails, a stick would hit it or something like that and knock it over. And on top of that, you couldn't hear me talk, which is kind of crucial for us, just the way we work with like the whole ATV vlogging, repair, ride videos, that kind of stuff. So hearing us talk was pretty important. So I got digging into a bunch of stuff, and this is quite the little mechanism that I created here. I needed a way to clamp this thing on, so I found a bar clamp, and then I used all sorts of random little bits and pieces that are all adjustable I really didn't need. I switched all of the prongs, which are these guys you might recognize for GoPro. I switched them all to screws, and then I basically got it in position so that when you put a GoPro right here, it's right at the little face hole here. So when I'm talking, it's right into the back of the camera and you could hear us. Then I just kind of zip tied it, made it all permanent. I did the same thing for safety. I put another sticky pad in case this whole thing just like falls off or something. Just an extra chance that I can hold on to the GoPro before I lose it in a lake or something like that.
It was a learning curve.
So that was me trying to start my YouTube career.
Zip tie.
Yeah, that was a bit of a field fix with an RC ATV ride, and a friend of mine, Chico, gave me a zip tie so that I could secure it so it wouldn't rattle and hit my helmet. So just trying to get the best, best audio and visuals for you guys. And there was a long battle there. So like I said, when Cass got started, so she wanted to have her own GoPro and we could start doing 2 angles and that kind of stuff. We found this mount for a motocross helmet on Amazon. It might be a little more popular now, but at the time
it was hard
you had to do
find.
a bit of a deep dive into Amazon on like, page 13 of the search results. So there was that.
What's cool about it is it's super easy to take off and put on.
It's just Velcro.
So there's the 3 Velcros. It's made for motocross, like Kyle was saying. So a lot of the open face helmets, you can mount it on the side and still hear yourself talking. But it's just such an easy little mechanism.
Yeah.
It has the release straps too, if you want to use it. Or, sorry, let me see.
It's adjustable, so you can get it on a couple different open face helmets, and then it just has a clip if you want it on and off overall. But
I don't know why I just undid everything I did. I knew it was easier if I forgot.
Yeah, I was going to tell you. It's your problem to put it back on.
Yeah.
So that's how we ended up getting... so it's kind of the best position overall, really. I mean, because whatever we see, the GoPro will see, especially with the wide angle. So it really helps out in the sense that, you know, if I'm looking at some other ATV doing some cool thing, I know for sure that if I can see it, most likely the GoPro can too, because it has like a stupid wide angle degree of view.
Fisheye.
Yeah, the fisheye. So I am a big believer in that position. A lot of guys will just put it on the side and whatever, and that's great. But if you like to talk to your audience and that kind of thing, that's a really good spot. So
especially for now, because we haven't found not like a walkie-talkie system, but a communication system yet that can link in with GoPro and still talk to each other. I'm sure it exists. There's a couple of them. It's like $700 right now. So we're shopping around, but until we find a way to talk to each other in a way that can go on the GoPro, it is super helpful for each of us to have our own camera with the audio so we can kind of edit in our favor.
So if you're going to do the ATV YouTube thing, I highly suggest that spot so that you can converse with your audience. It's probably the best spot for visual angles, like I said. That's the way to do it, in my opinion. If you're just a guy getting a video and helping somebody else out with a channel or whatever, the top one still works. Just watch out for sticks and check on it once in a while. So, I mean, that's the way to do it for sure, in my opinion. But we have lots of other little accessories here in the background. This is what we actually bring everywhere we go. So everything pretty much fits in there. And there's a couple oddball pieces that just go in my bag here. So all of this comes out of basically the waterproof case. I got that on Amazon also. It fits 3 GoPros in the top shelf that sits in it. And underneath, I usually have another GoPro and like a couple like clamps and things like that. So there's lots going on there.
We'll start from left to right. Just your typical power bank if we need to charge on the road or anything like that.
It's a pretty big one. It has to be a certain type of charger in order to use that to charge GoPros. Mm-hmm. So it has to have enough power, milliamp per hour, I believe it is.
So that's super useful. I think you could charge your cell phone like 3 full times with it. Our dog recently got into it, so we'll have to get a new cable. Yeah. No big deal. A couple charge banks or charge stations for the various batteries. Unfortunately, the Hero 4 batteries are different than the Hero 7.
5, 6, and 7 are different batteries from the 4. Yeah.
So
you can see.
Oops, these are the same.
That one right there. So this is a GoPro 5, 6, and 7 battery. It has the larger contact point there, and then the 4 and below used just a tiny tab version. So they are different batteries from those generations.
And we originally just got the Smart Tree brand. It's just some Amazon brand. We weren't sure, I mean, it was a great price. We weren't sure if it was going to be the quality we were looking for because it wasn't the GoPro name brand. So far, so good. They hold their charge.
They've had moments where I definitely had issues, but they've also been just as good in a lot of scenarios. So what happened to me once, it's winter time that was actually the problem with the cheaper batteries. But they would just basically deplete faster than the GoPro. But with how cheap they are, you can buy 3 of them for 1 GoPro battery. So that's the way I went.
Then we just shove them in our pockets when it's cold and no big deal at all.
What's funny is when they depleted when it was cold, you can just warm them up in your jacket and they would actually not recharge, but basically be charged again.
12-volt port, plug.
Yeah, just in case we're, in a tight spot, you can charge with the ATV or your truck or something like that. And then obviously you need a wire for that too. And you can plug into these ports and charge some of these batteries. It'll be slow, but it'll work.
So one really cool one that Kyle actually found for us right before the Toronto Power Sports show is just, he's using a pretty standard expandable selfie stick right now that you've probably seen in some of our videos. This one's the tri-axle, I don't even know what to call it. It's just super cool. You can bend it the way you want it. And the coolest part about it, in my opinion, is this tripod stores in the handle. So you just unscrew the handle from the bottom and you've got yourself a tripod. It's come in handy for Kyle when he shoots some of the upgrades or anything really in the shop when he's alone and I'm not around. You just kind of...
Yeah, it's really hard to be wrenching on things. So this thing has helped a lot with that. So I can get it, like you'll see in a lot of my upgrade videos that I'm using two hands, and obviously the camera's on a stand beside me. So this is the unit that I use for everything. It's amazing.
It's very good for traveling too.
If you have this with one of your GoPros or something similar to it, there's a lot of other, knockoff brands, but there's plenty of options for those. And I think the best thing to go with that is the clamp. Now, that thing also bends in whatever shape you need it to. Obviously, you can clamp it to basically anything that fits in it. Cass has weak hands, but it is pretty tough to open all the way. Like, it's taken a good amount of force, but that's kind of what's needed in order for this to stay confidently, somewhere where you can't watch it or something like that.
Like on a back rack or something.
So between that and this, you can pretty much do everything you need to do for a small YouTube channel right there. And you'll see these quite often, just because they work so well. We've also got a lot of SD cards. So we started off with 232s, which on the GoPro 4s, the video quality wasn't all that high. So these worked out great. I also have a 64 gig, which is in my camera right now. And we have two 128s. We use the 128s for the GoPro 7s because they're capable of like 4K and above. So they do some pretty amazing stuff, but need a lot of storage. So typically two of these for one good day trip will do it for us. And then we use the smaller ones for the GoPro 4s if we're going to do third-person views or, extra stuff that like clamp on a tree or a bar or time-lapse with this guy somewhere or something like that. So you're going to need a few of these. And obviously, each one comes with a reader, so you can put this in your computer and actually read the card, take the video off. There's also a USB variant. I like to keep a USB stick in there, just in case I want to share video with like other riders or other YouTubers. Especially when you're like out of town, you can quickly give them some stuff. The GoPro 7s have some features where you can get them on your phone pretty well immediately, and that's a whole other story. But there's lots of little things here.
So this is pretty sweet. Just kind of like a tackle box setup, completely waterproof. Oh, that's hot. Yeah, completely waterproof. It's good to know, especially in the Johnstown ride. Kyle had this in his backpack, and the backpack's obviously not waterproof. It's just a generic Under Armour backpack. So when he's doing water wheelies and that thing is soaked in water, actually we just got the case, I think, the week before.
Yeah, literally right before.
So super useful to have waterproof containers for your gear, I guess. But
we didn't have to worry about the GoPro 7s because they're waterproof.
Contained, yeah.
But the 4 and below that we were also using at the time, they have to use waterproof cases.
Which, okay, so the waterproof cases on the GoPro 4s, yep, awesome. Your camera's not getting ruined by water. But for ATVing, as soon as you put that case on, you can't hear anything. You can't hear talking. You can't hear...
So what we did was we use a waterproof case, and we keep a couple different backs. So this backing here actually has a big hole in it, which doesn't make it waterproof. A little more water resistant from splashes and things like that. But this allowed us to get audio inside the case. And if it started downpouring or something like that, or we knew we were going to do something silly, we'd change the backing out to a solid one so that it was completely waterproof.
But for those of you questioning if it's worth the jump to the 7s, if you're still rocking older cameras, we've done it. We got a second Hero 7. Totally worth it. We did some side-by-side, well, especially there was an awkward point in our videos where I was still rocking the Hero 4, and oh my god, jingle bells over here.
Diesel, quiet on set.
And the transition between my footage and Kyle's footage was really awkward. Mine didn't have any of the sound reduction or the wind reduction.
Yeah, or the hyper smooth.
Or the hyper smooth, so it'd be like, and then go over to Kyle's.
Which wasn't noticeable before when we had 2 4s beside each other, yeah.
No, so once we upgraded, and you could see the difference significantly. The vibrancy of the colors, the quality of the sound, and the hyper smooth was actually incredible. So totally worth it in my opinion.
Even going from the 6 to the 7. So the 5 and 6 came out with stability, which was a huge jump at the time. But the hyper smooth versus stability is even better yet. It's the same jump in the same direction, but so much better. And then the ability to do hyper smooth and stability with like 4K instead of 1080. Like these cameras are getting crazy for considering what they are.
And now the hyper smooth, we keep saying 7 generically, but the hyper smooth is only available in the 7 black. So it's unfortunately not one of the features that's available in the
But the regular
silver.
stability is on the silver and white.
It is.
So there's no issues that way. And like, what's the white worth? Like the lower model 7? It's like $200 bucks.
Yeah.
Like
it's $100
we
more
paid
per model.
$50 less for a Hero 4 used.
Yeah.
So those are good prices to start with.
It really is.
Like I think these GoPro 7 blacks, what was like $600 bucks?
The first one was cheaper. It was like
Canadian. That's in Canadian pesos. None of that freedom money.
Yeah, the pre-order was like $3-something, $3.99 plus
Yeah,
tax.
it was a lot cheaper for the pre-order.
You'll never see that again. Well, never, but.
But this is our setup. We also keep a couple. Oh, one thing you definitely want to do is bring a rag with you. This is a bad example of a rag, but something to wipe off the camera. And I also bring a few extra little bits just in case something breaks or whatever. Because it would really suck if you go out on a big, awesome ride and some of this fails. So that's why we take this a little extreme. Like some guys just take their one GoPro and their one camera, and that's fine. But I mean, you don't want to miss out on some footage. So that's why we do everything here.
You wouldn't want to do like a really wicked ride and not wipe off your camera for like
how many times have you done that? I go to edit footage and you're all excited about this awesome thing, and all I can see is muck.
So the rag helps, but also actually doing it.
Yeah, remembering to do it. Yeah.
What else?
That's basically it for the setup. I mean, so all of this stuff here, we put it in that box, in that bag, and her and I just share carrying it. And that's how we get everything done on a trail ride. We even use this stuff for like in the shop. So you don't need one of those big fancy vlogger cameras with like the muff thing and all the audio, all the ridiculous like zoom. Like I can zoom with this thing, I think. I'll find out later.
I mean, you don't need.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen guys do stuff with just their cell phone. You know, like it can be done. So don't let all these YouTube videos tell you need top of the line stuff. Like we started with really cheap used cameras, and they did a fantastic job. It's all about taking the time to understand your equipment, trialing it, and keeping your head stable if you can. Try to get the good shots, and then it's all into your editing. So
a couple pointers. What I've learned, anyways, is camera manipulating with mittens sucks. I've taken so many time-lapse shots while I'm riding, so get really familiar with your buttons. The 7 from the 4, I think they swapped.
Opposite. Yeah.
It was front, now it's side, something like that. I still don't have it right. Even today in the shop, I was taking time-lapse photos, so take the time it takes to learn the equipment. But also, one of my biggest things, and Kyle reminds me all the time, is while I'm riding, I'm super all over the place. I'm looking around, like I'm super distracted. Yeah. So it doesn't make for great footage, but it's something I'm working on for sure. And
don't worry, there's no squirrel, Diesel. Jeez.
It's something that I'm working on for sure, and could be useful for you guys if you're just starting out, for sure.
Yeah, so that's basically it. And I think we covered everything. So if you have any questions, because this video came about because we are answering someone's question. I should probably make sure the camera's pointed at me. So somebody asked, like, how do you do it? I'd like to get into it. So this is how we did it. Just make sure that it's in a good spot where people can see everything you see. Make sure they can hear you if you want to be vocal in your videos. And just be prepared with extra batteries, extra SD cards, that kind of thing. I mean, this stuff adds up really quick. I mean, we didn't even think we were going to do YouTube, and then all of a sudden we have, like, I don't even want to add up the dollars, but
Nope.
next thing you know, it's you're sitting here explaining it to other people. So
Yeah.
it's there's a lot to it.
We were going to sell the 4s originally, but then we got to thinking about it, and we're just probably going to use them as rear mounts or front-facing mounts, something. You can get creative with it. So that's another thing to consider if you're upgrading from one to another. I believe GoPro actually has a trade-in deal right now as well, where you upgrade your old one for a new one, save a pretty penny or something. But otherwise, that's how we do it.
Yeah. So if you have any other questions about what we do and how we do it, I know people have asked us about our ATV trailer. It's an ATV specific trailer. People have asked us about, you know, our tow rig and what kind of stuff we bring for like camping events, you know, where we camp for a couple of days. We have some pictures and stuff like that. But anyway, if you have questions, just ask and we'll probably tell you. Maybe we can do a Q&A at some point too.
Yeah.
But have a good one, guys. We're just going to finish up and enjoy the fire.